Hello, my name is Alex Musar. I'm here to talk to you about using the building code to reduce energy use within the built environment. Let's get some baseline definitions out of the way before we get going. A building code is a minimum set of standards used for the construction of buildings. It can apply to a ton of things from how much insulation goes into a roof, what type of materials we can use where, to what type of fixtures we can use for plumbing or lights we can put in. A municipal code is a compilation of all the rules, the laws, regulations that are in a town, county, or city. States within the United States can adopt and adapt different building codes that are produced nationally or internationally through legislation. So each state's code is slightly different, but all within the same vein. What we've accomplished thus far, from 2016 building code numbers, we have been able to save 30% of energy compared to the 2006 energy codes per the U.S. Department of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, which is major strides, although there's still a lot of room for growth, as we'll discuss later on. These savings account for 126 billion for consumers in energy across the next 30 years, and is the equivalent of shutting down 245 large coal-fired power plants. Areas of energy inefficiency include poor insulation values or lack of insulation placement. Often older buildings won't have insulation at their footings, really loosely filled insulation in their attics. Poor solar orientation. So with cold climates such as Bozeman, we would like to orient our buildings to the south as much as possible to gather in that free solar radiation, which heat our house and decrease our mechanical energy loads. Improper sealing, poor glazing systems with either single pane windows, inefficient heating and cooling methods. So use of air conditioners, which are really energy intensive, in areas such as Bozeman are unneeded when swamp coolers could do the same thing for much less energy cost. Large embodied carbon materials such as steel, gypsum, and concrete are largely used in the building industry. Inefficient appliances, under controlling of heating and lighting zone, and then a lack of user knowledge of building systems. One method that building codes could address is increase R value. In recent IEC codes, continuous insulation to stop thermal bridging has been implemented. Thermal bridging is studs in the walls have a low thermal quality, a low R value, and so if you don't put an insulation in front of it, heat energy is transferred through that stud and bypasses the insulation we have in the bay right next to it, thus making the whole wall assembly much less efficient. Under slab insulation down to the frost line and under the slab itself will decrease heat loss to the ground. And then a raised heel truss is something that hasn't been implemented yet in IECC, but this allows for continuous insulation up to the construction of the roof and wall, which is a major area of heat loss. R values are important for both summer and winter. A higher R value means that it just takes longer for heat transfer, and so a really high R value allows you to cool a building effectively during the summer and keep that cool in and keep the heat outside, and the inverse in the winter. Climate-friendly insulation options include mineral wool, cellulose fiber, denim, and straw bale. These are becoming more and more used in the modern building system. The glulam and CLT construction is fairly new onto the scene. It takes small pieces of lumber, and laminates them together, allowing us to create mass timber pieces. And these mean we don't have to get mass timber, we no longer have to cut down old growth forest. And it decreases our overall concrete use, which accounts for 8% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. Carbon is naturally sequestered in wood, so we can use our building systems to hold in carbon as well. They have improved earthquake performance and an increased fire rating to that of steel structures, and have some really interesting applications for larger buildings into the future if the code catches up. IBC 2021 expands the height limitations on mass timber so we can build taller buildings with a mass timber structure. Land use policy, I think, is probably one of the largest and most holistic um, of our issues. We need to find a way to avoid urban sprawl as it increases resource use for transportation and infrastructure exponentially. Um, it extends the distance where all our public services have to go. So water, roads, natural gas, electricity all have to travel much further, which just expands our tax use, um, but also expands our resource use. It induces demand for single occupancy vehicles as multimodal commuting becomes harder as distances get further. It also makes it so busing systems are much harder to implement as we need a higher density for busing to work properly. Um, it also decreases agriculture and public lands as the urban envelope encroaches upon these areas, leading to further environmental degradation. Increasing lot fill and density requirements, I think, is a basic step in our zoning policy. Developing multimodal road infrastructure, so fund public transit developments at a higher rate, and then decrease the induced demand for single occupancy driving by charging for parking. Which promotes other modes of transit. To the class of 2070, hopefully we've been able to decrease energy consumption throughout our buildings. We've hopefully been able to eliminate direct fossil fuel use in homes, such as natural gas and heating for heating and stoves. And then we've been able to control urban sprawl through planning, land protection, and increased mass transit use. To do this, we have used building code mandates to increase insulation, tighten envelopes to decrease heat leakage, implemented efficient fixtures across the spectrum of electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and we've expanded the use of CLT and glulam construction. And then updating and implementation of aggressive urban planning policies to achieve a strong future with decreased sprawl. I would like to thank you for your time and looking forward to a bright future.